I was replacing my parents' roof, saving them $12,000 in labor. My dad filmed me from the yard and sent it to everyone. Look at this joke. Trying to prove he's useful. My uncle posted a meme. I packed my tools and left. 3 days later, rain hit. The unfinished roof collapsed into his bedroom. My sister called screaming. Then my mom called, fix this immediately, but for 3 days straight I ripped shingles in 90-degree heat while my parents sat in the air conditioning and watched me from the kitchen window. They didn't offer me a drink. They didn't bring out a sandwich. Not once did they ask if I needed help. I was on that roof by myself, for free, trying to save them from spending $12,000 on labor. They said they couldn't afford it, that they wanted to put the money toward a dream vacation through Europe. My dad said it would be our first real trip together since the kids, and my mom kept saying it was their reward for surviving 30 years of marriage. So I said I'd help. I knew what I was doing. I'd done side work with a contractor during college and replaced a few small roofs on my own. This one was big but manageable. I planned every step out in a notebook. I watched YouTube tutorials at night and made material lists down to the last nail. I borrowed a ladder, rented the right tools, bought new gloves, packed my truck and showed up at their door ready to work. And at first they acted thrilled, hugged me, made a show of gratitude. My mom even said we knew we raised a smart one. But the moment I stepped onto the roof everything changed. It started small. My dad stood in the yard filming me with his phone. I didn't think much of it. I assumed he wanted to show off the progress. But I noticed he wasn't filming the work. He was filming me struggling to lift bundles of shingles up a ladder, slipping slightly on the slope, pausing to wipe sweat off my face. I saw him zoom in. That night I heard them laughing in the living room. They'd sent the video to the family group chat. The caption read, "Look at this funny guy trying to prove he's useful." My uncle sent back a meme of a raccoon with a hammer. My sister commented, "At least hire someone hot next time." The next morning I heard my dad playing it again on the TV. They were watching it like it was a skit. Nobody said a word to me. No thanks, no encouragement, just laughter from the other side of the window while I was patching their roof under the sun. That's when I saw the printout on the fridge: 2 weeks in Europe, first-class tickets, luxury hotels, spa appointments, a private food tour in Italy. It was all booked. They'd made the plans before I even started. They never needed to save the labor cost. They were pocketing it, spending it on themselves. They played me. They knew I'd volunteer. They knew I'd say yes, because that's what I always did. I kept working quietly. I finished the kitchen side. I layered the shingles over the living room. I tarred the bedroom side and told them I needed another day or two to wrap it all up. Dad laughed and said, "Take your time, superstar." Then added something about uploading the video to YouTube. I told him I had to leave for a bit, made up something vague about a family emergency. My wife was in surgery. I said not true, but believable enough to get out of there. I didn't plan to come back. 3 days later it rained hard. My phone rang just after midnight. It was my sister screaming. The ceiling had caved in over my parents' bedroom. The rain got through the tarp I'd left half secured. Water poured in, the joists gave out. A nightstand was destroyed, my dad's suitcase was soaked through, his camera was toast. The mattress was ruined. It missed their TV and sound system by a few feet. Then Mom called, her voice flat, furious. She didn't ask if I was okay or if I could help. She just said, "Fix it right now." But this time I was done. The morning after the collapse I woke up to 37 missed calls. Texts were still coming in. One from my sister said, "Get over here before Dad does something he regrets." Another from my mom just said, "This is your mess. You better fix it now." I didn't respond. I scrolled through them, slowly, reading every angry word like I was studying another language, my name over and over again. Their house was falling apart and they were looking for someone to hang it on. Not each other, not the guy who'd filmed me and laughed me. I figured they'd cool off, but instead they escalated. Around noon I got a message from my cousin Leah. She lives 4 houses down from them. Apparently, the police had just shown up 2 cruisers. My parents told them their son had done unauthorized roofing work and abandoned the job. Leah said the cops didn't even go inside. One of them just stood on the sidewalk, asked some basic questions, then shook his head and told my dad to call a contractor next time. My dad tried to get him to file a report. He refused. That must have hit hard, because things got uglier after that. By evening my mom was threatening small claims court. My sister sent me an edited screenshot of the group chat, posting the before and after of the roof, like it was a tabloid story. My uncle, of course, jumped in with another meme, a half-collapsed house with the words DIY nightmare. This is why you call professionals. They were spinning the story into something it wasn't. It wasn't enough that they'd mock me, now I had to be the villain too. That night I told my wife everything. She was quiet for a while. Then she said, they didn't just use you, they humiliated you on purpose. She was right. I kept thinking about that video, the way they watched it like a comedy sketch, the smug way my dad called me superstar as I climbed down that last day, all while they were planning a vacation I was never going to be part of. So I made a choice. I wrote a check for $15,000 and mailed it to them the next day. More than they lost, more than the job was worth. No note, no message, just a check. I figured once they cashed it they'd fix the roof, go quiet and move on. I was wrong. For days later I got a voicemail from my mom. No greeting, just her yelling. She said they were looking over some old receipts and realized I still hadn't paid back the $2,000 I borrowed 5 years ago. She said they were talking to their bank that they might stop the deposit on the check until we sorted out the full amount that debt. I paid it off within 6 months on time in full, and they knew that. But they didn't care about facts, they cared about control. That check wasn't received as a peace offering. It was seen as weakness proof that they could push harder. Then my dad left a voicemail, shorter but worse. You think you can just walk away from this? We're not done with you, Jacob. You owe us. It wasn't about money anymore. It never had been. I didn't call back, I didn't text. I just sat on the porch that night with my wife and we talked. She said something that stuck with me. You gave them everything. They gave you nothing, not even basic respect, and now they want more. She asked if I was finally done. I didn't answer right away, but I knew the answer. The silence after blocking them didn't last more than 2 days. I thought maybe they'd get the message that the check was the end of it and I'd finally drawn a line they wouldn't cross. But on the third morning I opened my email and saw a long message from my dad with the subject line, "Read what you owe us." It read like a manifesto, 3 paragraphs in bold, 2 in all caps. He said I had disrespected them, made them look like fools, embarrassed the family, forced them to hire expensive contractors and, worst of all, acted like money could fix what I destroyed. He said the check was a slap in the face, that it felt like I was buying my way out of guilt and that this kind of behavior will not be tolerated in this family. He ended with, "We are considering our next steps, legally if necessary," attached for photos of their newly repaired roof, the one they managed to fix. 2 days after cashing the check, a professional crew in matching shirts stood next to new shingles, all stacked perfectly on the driveway. The caption read the way it should have been done the first time, "No, thank you." No acknowledgement that they were only able to afford it because of me. Just blame, always blame. I sat there at the kitchen table staring at the screen and I don't know why, but I started laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. I could have written the email myself if I tried. It was exactly the script they always followed, twist the story, erase the help, shift the blame. But that week something changed out of nowhere. My cousin Eric called. I hadn't heard from him in years, always the quiet guy at family gatherings, the one who sat in the corner playing on his phone. He said he saw the video Dad sent to the group chat, the one of me struggling on the roof with a caption mocking me apparently. After the collapse my parents started telling everyone I'd walked out on them halfway through the project, refused to fix it and dumped the blame on them. They said I left the house dangerously exposed, ignored calls and had a history of being unreliable, but they forgot. The internet never forgets. Eric had saved the video, the one where Dad mocked me from the lawn, where I was clearly sweating, working alone, where no one offered help. He showed it to his dad, who showed it to 2 more people and just like that the story started unraveling. A few days later I started getting texts. Aunt Deb messaged, "Saw the video. Honestly, Jacob, I don't know how you stayed as long as you did. I would have left on day 1. My cousin Lindsay messaged me. Your dad sent us that clip like it was comedy. He didn't think anyone would take your side. Glad some of us did." That's when I realized my parents weren't just angry, they were losing their audience. They told the story their way. For years I was always the struggling son, the one they carried, the one who borrowed and forgot. But now people were remembering things differently, like the way I worked through college to pay rent, the time I lent my dad money for his car repairs and never asked for it back. The way I used to mow their lawn every weekend when they were out of town unpaid. They remembered my parents just didn't think they would. But not everyone picked a side. Some stayed quiet, others said it was just a misunderstanding. My uncle, the one who'd posted memes, went silent. Not a word since the roof fell in. That silence was almost better than an apology. Then came the voicemail block number. My mom. She said they'd spoken to a lawyer, claimed they had proof. I owed them $2,000 from 5 years ago. She said they were well within their rights to take legal action. That if I didn't acknowledge the debt they'd file something with the county. She ended with, everyone agrees you need to make this right, everyone. That word landed like a slap. That night I played the voicemail for my wife while we were eating dinner. She didn't say anything at first, just put her fork down, opened her laptop and started typing. When I asked what she was doing, she said drafting a list, every favor, every dollar you ever paid back, every errand you ran, every hour you worked on that roof. If they want receipts, we'll give them receipts. She kept typing. I sat across from her watching her build my case like a lawyer in a courtroom. It hit me then I wasn't alone in this. I never really had been. I just forgot what support looked like because I was raised in a house that never gave any. I stared at the check stub still sitting on the counter, $15,000. That was their price and I had already paid it. But now they wanted something else. By the end of that week, the list my wife was making had grown into a full-blown document, dates, screenshots, receipts, every instance where I'd helped my parents over the years, from the summer I paid their electric bill without telling them, to the time I missed the job interview to help my dad haul furniture before their garage sale. She titled the file What Jacob Owes versus What Jacob Gave. She even found the transfer logs from when I paid back the $2,000 loan, each transaction marked clearly. I remember looking at the final total and realizing I'd actually overpaid by $180. I had no memory of that, but she had it in writing. I was ready to send it all to them, but then something happened. Sunday morning I was outside watering the plants when a silver SUV pulled up in front of our house. I didn't recognize it until the door opened and my dad stepped out. I froze. I hadn't seen him since the roof collapsed. He didn't have his phone out this time. No smile, no camera. He walked up slowly, looked around like he wasn't sure if he should even be there and then stopped 5 feet away from me for a second. Neither of us said anything. Then he said we need to talk. I asked him how he found my address. He said my sister had it from when she helped us move. I nodded slowly and leaned against the fence. I told him I wasn't sure talking would help. He ignored that and asked if we could sit down. I told him no. So he stood there sweating and told me he didn't want things to spiral. That was his word. Spiral, like everything happening was just some bad miscommunication. He said they may have overreacted, but that I needed to understand how stressful everything was, that the vacation wasn't just a trip. It was a celebration of surviving a hard year, that the check I sent was confusing because it felt like an insult, and then he dropped the line. That sent me over the edge. You used to be so grateful. What happened? That's when I walked back inside. I left him in the yard, didn't slam the door, didn't say a word, just walked back into the kitchen where my wife was watching from the window. She asked if I was okay. I told her not yet, but I will be. I thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. That night someone tried to break into my truck. Nothing was taken, but the lock was scratched and the glove compartment was open. It could have been random, it could have been someone looking for change, but my good said otherwise. My parents knew what kind of truck I drove and they weren't used to being ignored. I filed a police report just in case. The officer asked if I had any enemies. I just laughed and said only the kind that say they love me. 2 days later I got a call from a restricted number, voicemail. Again. This time it was my mom crying. She said they were hurt, that the family was coming apart, that they never wanted it to go this far. Then she added something I'll never forget, you're not the only one who knows how to cut people off. I played that one for my wife too. She didn't say anything, just reached across the table, took my phone and blocked the number again. After the breaking attempt and that last voicemail, I expected things to finally settle. There wasn't much left to say and I'd already taken every precaution short of changing my number. My wife even suggested we think about moving if things got worse. But it wasn't over, not yet. 3 days later I was leaving work when I saw a note tucked under my windshield, wiper, no envelope, no signature, just folded printer paper. I opened it slowly, already bracing myself. It said, we won't forget what you did. This won't end until you fix it the right way. No name, no threats, just that. But the handwriting was my mom's, that weird curse of print she used for everything. I recognized it instantly and the paper smelled like her perfume, the same overpowering floral she sprayed on everything. When I got home I didn't even bring the note inside, I dropped it into the fire pit and lit a match. My wife and I sat on the patio while it burned. Either of us speaking, I think we both knew that the final thread was snapping. The next morning my cousin Eric called again. He sounded cautious, like he was walking a tightrope. He said my mom had shown up uninvited at his mom's place, Aunt Deb's, and caused a full-blown scene. She was crying, accusing everyone of turning on her, saying I had poisoned the family against her. Eric said she accused me of blackmailing them, of trying to buy silence. She even said she was considering filing a report for harassment. Aunt Deb told her to leave or she'd call the police. It was unraveling, but the worst part wasn't the threats or the guilt trips or even the note. It was that my parents, who once claimed to love me unconditionally, had finally shown me what their love really looked like. It was leverage, nothing more. That night my wife sat beside me on the couch, laptop in hand. She had the entire timeline open, every receipt, every text, every bank transaction. She had it color-coded, labeled, categorized. She said if they tried anything, legally or otherwise, we'd be ready. I thanked her. She said she didn't do it for them, she did it for me. Then she said something I didn't expect, block them all, every one of them, for real this time. Not just your parents, your sister too, anyone who tries to drag you back into this. I hesitated, not because I disagreed, but because I realized how long I'd waited to hear those words. I started with my sister, then a few cousins who'd stayed quiet, then the group chat. I removed myself and muted every thread. Finally, I blocked my parents on every platform, email, phone, social media, even the shared cloud folder my mom used to dump family photos into. I deleted everything and I didn't feel guilt, I felt relief. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't justice, it was survival. I thought maybe they'd try one last move, a knock at the door, a lawyer's letter, something theatrical. But nothing came. Not that week, not the next, just silence. For the first time they were the ones waiting for a call. It took 4 weeks for the silence to break. By then I'd started to get used to the quiet. No more voicemails, no unexpected visitors, no notes on my windshield. I was sleeping better. My wife said I looked like a different person, like I'd finally stopped bracing for something to hit me. But then, out of nowhere, my sister showed up at my job. She just walked in, no warning, no message. She stood at the front desk like she was dropping off a package, but when she saw me she snapped into gear. You need to talk to Mom. She's losing it. I told her I was busy. She ignored that. She's sick over this, Jacob. She barely eats, she doesn't sleep. She says you've ruined the family. And now she remembers the loan. I just stared at her. She went on, said I never paid it back, said Mom found an old notebook that proved it, that they were willing to forgive the rest if I just apologized and gave her something back to make it even. She actually said it like that, to make it even. I didn't raise my voice, didn't say anything dramatic. I just told her flat out, I paid them, I overpaid and I won't give them another dollar or another second. She scoffed, called me selfish and walked out. That night I told my wife everything. She didn't flinch. She said then it's time we sat down and wrote a message together, not to be sent, just to be read out loud once and then deleted. It was everything I'd never said to them, every moment I'd swallowed, every hurt I'd let go unacknowledged, every apology I'd made that they never earned. And when I finished reading it, I blocked the last remaining number. My parents were now completely cut off, no access, no more stories to twist, no more guilt to weaponize, nothing. And just when I thought the last chapter had closed, something unexpected happened. That weekend my dad's brother, the one who never got involved, who rarely spoke at family gatherings, called me. His voice was calm, measured. He said, I saw the whole thing unfold. I stayed out of it because I thought it would blow over. But it didn't, and I want you to know you did the right thing. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. Then he said something that made everything stop. You're not the first one they treated like this. You're just the first one who walked away and didn't come crawling back. That silence I'd been living in. It wasn't empty. It was full of all the things I didn't know, all the people who'd watched, waited and finally saw the truth. In that moment I knew I wasn't just breaking a pattern, I was ending it. I looked over at my wife. She gave me the smallest nod, like she already knew, and for the first time in my life I felt free. It's been 2 months since I last heard from my parents. No messages, no phone calls, no sudden visits, just silence. At first it felt like a wound had scabbed over. Now it's starting to feel like fading light, gone, but still leaving its mark. I rebuilt my routine, focused on work and spent weekends remodeling our home with my wife. We finally finished the sunroom she'd always wanted. It's now our favorite corner of the house, bright, peaceful and full of possibility. We laugh there over morning coffee, planning trips together on our terms. Then last week something shifted, a knock at the front door. Standing there was my niece, my sister's young daughter, holding a small fern in a chipped terracotta pot. She was nervous and quiet, like she wasn't sure what she was doing there. "Uncle Jacob," she began, tears in her eyes. "Mom told me to give you this and she asked to say sorry." I knelt down. My heart sank and held its breath. The fern felt heavier than it should have. I'd missed birthdays and Christmas but hadn't seen her since she was 5. Now she's 8. She looked taller, more guarded but hopeful. Before I could say a word, she turned and walked back across the yard, heading to the gate. Then the rustle of footsteps and a voice, her mother's, calling, "Leave it, Kira, come home." That was it. A glimpse, a gesture, a message. Half said. I brought the fern inside. It needs repotting and better soil. I left it near the window. It's fitting. Their apology came half alive, wilted around the edges, unsure of its place. My wife watered it gently. That night I found myself thinking, families are messy, apologies, even messier. But forgiveness isn't binary. It's a path, not a switch. Maybe this little plant is the start of something new, or maybe it'll stay a reminder that some things won't grow without commitment from both sides.